Brian, since we haven't talked to you since the end of spring, when you all met as a staff about the offense, what was the overall evaluation? What did you think you guys accomplished in those 15 days?
I think we did a good job competing. I think we did a great job of trying to play the game as much as possible, unscripted, more of a live period, not tackle, but really put guys in position to grow and learn and to experience maybe what it's like on a Saturday, even though it's minimal of what it really is. But I think we did a pretty good job installing, putting guys in position to make plays, and also new guys to put their best foot forward. That whole combination I thought was well done.
You use the spring, you've been through this as a player. Do you want to have a depth chart that's in your mind by the end of spring, or do you all approach this as like there's nothing that's going to be settled until August?
No, I would say coming through spring, you want to get an idea of some people you want to be able to start relying on. You want to identify points where maybe things need to improve. You want to, again, start outlining guys you're going to count on in the fall, and then continue to develop them through summer. Identify individually and offensively things that we need to improve on, but also things that we do well. At the end of the day, coming out of spring, you want to start having an identity, and putting those guys in position to create that identity is really important.
How are you feeling?
Good.
An injury and everything good?
Feel good. We'll play a game right now.
Is there anything that you can say about what happened that night? At your house with the accident?
No, there's nothing I can really say. I mean, all I would say is that in hindsight, I probably would have rather went to bed instead of rode a side by side. But that's about all I'd say.
Yeah. Do you feel like you dodged one maybe a little bit there? Could have been a lot worse.
It's always could be worse, but again, there's nothing else to talk about.
Having Joe Philbin join, how beneficial could that be? I mean, you have a history with him.
Yeah. Having Joe's been great. I think the perspective he gives, the wealth of knowledge that he has as a position coach, head coach, a football coach. I mean, I think everyone in the building can learn something from him, and he really, it's really awesome. I mean, to say it's not, a little, pretty cool in my perspective, to be around Coach Philbin again in a different light, in a different way, would be an understatement. So very happy he's here. He's a great addition to our staff.
How much do you think you'll lean on him? Because you're a first-time coordinator, obviously, and he's done it at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're surrounded by guys in the building that have done it at the highest level and have done it really well. Now, I'm going to lean on everyone in the room, Coach Day and Coach Fry and Coach Dennis and Coach Bailey and so on and so forth, Coach Alford. But I mean, he's definitely a great addition, and he'll bring something to the room that will help us.
Brian, how are those meetings? I know we ask you all the time. Is it free to speak? I mean, you know what I mean? How would you describe
our offensive meetings?
Yeah, I mean, how would you describe when y'all are getting together, brainstorming or whatever? Is everybody free to speak their mind? I mean, how does that work in your brain?
Yeah, you encourage dialogue. You encourage ideas. Sometimes the idea that comes out is not the right idea, but it then sparks another conversation, and eventually you find yourself down a road where it's a good conversation. I would hate to ever have a room where people are nervous and scared to speak. Now you want to make sure you know what you're talking about or those kind of things, but and that encourages that. But I think the more dialogue you can have with the kind of caliber of coaches we have in our room, it's always a good thing.
And so, with like a Coach Philbin, are you personally looking for insights from what he's observed? Maybe in practice. I mean, how does that work? What's the interaction? You understand what I'm saying? Or and tying to where he's been.
Sure. I mean, I would say, he's not just blurting out all the time. He's waiting to maybe be called upon or pulled aside or whatever. But I'm sure if there's a thing that he believes strongly in, he'd be willing to voice his opinion. Again, all opinions are welcomed. I would just say that he's not in there trying to overtake the room. He is very respectful of everyone that's in there, and as much as we're learning from him, I know he's trying to learn from us. So that's a pretty normal situation.
Yeah, Brian, with the crash, did you bring that up with the team, with your group, the receivers? Did you feel like that was something needed to be addressed?
No, but anything addressed or anything that we do will be kept in house.
Did that episode change you? I mean, people have experiences that change them. I'm not. You know what I'm asking there. I mean, you're kind of a different guy since then. How would you explain it?
Everything provides a learning opportunity, and I would say it was a learning opportunity.
You're a type A guy, right? You like to push things, and that's your personality. You like to go 100 miles an hour. Is that one of those things like, okay?
I'm not going to talk about the situation anymore. So.
Remember when I asked you when you were a player, and I said, were you one of those guys who 5 years old went off the high board?
Oh yeah, that's probably about
And
right.
you said yes.
That's probably about right.
Yeah.
5 years old, trying to jump off the high dive.
But I'm not talking about specifics of that situation, but as you go through life, you feel yourself mellowing a little bit. I mean, you feel yourself personally mellowing a little.
It's yeah, you have to. Your body doesn't operate the same way as it used to when you were younger.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm getting to here, when you come that close to like maybe something serious happening to you, which an injury is still serious, but does it make you step back and
I'm healthy.
Yeah. But you want to stay healthy, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Lorenzo was a guy that obviously you guys looked at.
Oh yeah.
Now he's back here. What makes it about him when he's able to switch to the defensive side? Obviously, he's on offense too.
He's a great athlete. Always was in high school. I thought he was a heck of a player. I don't want to speak for him, but I felt like coming out of high school, he was a good athlete. I felt like I may have told him I thought his best position was corner. I know it's always tough finding the path and believing on what you want to do, and then maybe switching. And I can only guess how hard that would be. But I'm really excited he's back as an individual, as a person. He's awesome. So to add more and more people like that to our locker room is only a bonus for us.
What does he gain having spent 2 years there? What can he bring to that side of the room that maybe he learned?
I don't know. I mean, that's probably a good question for him. But you'd like to think that he probably maybe some tricks of the trade from a receiver standpoint, and then the things he was trying not to give away, maybe as a DB he's trying to pick up on, and then that allows him to, cut the corners in his new job description.
That's sort of the upside of the transfer portal, isn't it? A guy who maybe second guesses what the first decision he made, like Taiwan Malone, y'all were after him pretty hard, and now so he's back to Ohio State.
Yep.
Is that an upside, I guess, to the transfer portal that you can fix something that maybe you?
I think that anytime you're able to provide more power to the player, it's a good thing. It's their responsibility to use the power the right way and in the right light. But I think anytime the players are with the power, it's better off for the sport.
Speaking of the transfer portal, obviously you guys had a couple guys leave over the course of the spring, and when you're stacking up talent, that's almost, I guess, in this day and age, that's an inevitable conclusion maybe there. Did you expect that to happen that quickly, that you would start losing guys from that second-year class?
No, I guess I didn't really have any expectations. I was just, hopeful to continue to build and shape the room as best we can. I completely understand all the pressures that everyone has, and frankly, what they feel is right is up to them. But it is just tough, man. I mean, I think at the end of the day, they're just trying. They feel like they have a 4 to 5 year window, and they're just trying to give themselves the best chance.
Is the room being as highly competitive as it is, are you seeing that show up on the field and the results that you're getting out of every group that comes through?
As far as what?
Is it pushing their talent up? Is it pushing
Oh yeah, I mean, typically the more talent you have, the more you're demanding of the player, and then the more you can demand of the player, the more of the growth you're probably going to get for each individual. So the goal is to continue to add the best players in the country to the room to allow to push those that are currently there and those that are coming. So that's always the goal. That's what we're going to try to do.
Brian, you went through 15 practices in spring. Now you had time to reflect and look at film and all that. comfortable do you feel right now?
I feel pretty comfortable. I'm not to the point where I'm going to relax. I mean, I think that, I take that back. I don't know if you're ever comfortable. I think that I'm very honored to be in the role I'm in, and I'm not taking it lightly. But I would never say I guess I'm comfortable. I like the path we're on. I like the work that's being put in, and I'm excited to watch these guys work and apply through summer. I would say that.
And where does it stand in terms of play calling? I don't know if anything's been decided, or are you still very early in that process?
Coach Day would handle any of those kind of questions, not me.
To go back to Philbin,
Yeah.
Last few years you guys have had Kevin Wilson in that room, and he had, I think, a certain role, right, in terms of, especially when it came to the run game. Do you see Joe kind of inheriting some of that, like kind of that elder statesman as it relates to?
I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out. I'm sure Coach Fry, will use every asset he has around him, and obviously Joe would be a good asset. Exactly how everything lies right now. I mean, I know we leave. Coach Fry's got a good handle of that run game, and we'll let it grow from there. But I'd rely a lot and very heavily on Coach Fry.
Coming out of spring, you may have already been asked this for a while, but I've been here almost since the start. Your number one quarterback is?
What?
I said coming out spring, headed into the summer, your number one quarterback is?
What do you mean?
Who's your number one quarterback?
Or competing? What do you mean?
Okay. I know, I'm just trying to
Competing.
I'm trying to ask you a straight up question.
Just ask who the starting quarterback
I
is.
said, who's your starting quarterback?
Ask things in a weird way sometimes.
I actually said number one, not starting.
Yeah.
What did you see out of both of those guys that buoys you headed into the summer and then preseason camp that tells you?
I would just say the way they work, and not just the allotted time that we're given. They work outside those lines as far as on their own and with the guys. Both guys spend a lot of time that way. The way they compete, the way they still, give each other pointers, the way they do everything, frankly, is very encouraging. And the competition's only going to drive both of them. So all of those reasons are why I'm very confident in the end process.
I know I was talking with Devin has a quarterback, coach guy, that gives him pointers and stuff other than in this building, from his past and stuff. What is your stance on that kind of stuff, Brian? I mean, do you like that? I mean,
if that's what they want. I mean, I have no take on that.
Yeah.
I have
Because
zero.
I know some coaches in the past have we'd rather most of your stuff be coming from us.
Why?
I'm just saying what they said. I'm
Yeah,
not
I know.
saying I have no idea.
I'm just saying that I think
they want control.
that the athlete always knows, who the coach is, and for an athlete to only want to learn from one individual, I think that's kind of short-sighted. I think the amount that you can learn from anybody that you encounter or come across, excellent. Now, you may not enjoy working with them, so you don't, but if you enjoy working with them, you can learn something from them. You should try to learn as much as you can from as many people as possible.
You've got a lot of special receivers there, obviously. There's a lot of Wilson guys that any other program would say is probably the best it's ever gone. You got a guy now that would have been a top, draft pick in this year's draft to be eligible for Marvin. How much of a unicorn is he in terms of special talent, unique talent?
Well, I mean, I think that his unique talent is yes, I think Marvin is an elite player. I think Emeka's an elite player. I think Julian's an elite player. I think we can keep going on this list over and over and over again. But I think that what makes these guys so elite is the way they prepare, the way they work, the way they do the extra things outside the allotted time, the way they study film, the way they live. I mean, I think that everything they do plays a part in what you see on Saturday. I feel like those questions are, thinking it's just all God-given and like he didn't work for everything he got. Like he has literally worked for everything that he has, and that's the level at which you see for him, for Emeka, for Julian. All these guys are going down that path. It has not been given to them. They have earned it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't, like Marvin, obviously, we know his father, but we see him.
You say special talent, though. Talent is given. His skill development is off the charts because of the amount of work that he's put in.
That may be, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is that his unique? The fact that he has the talent, but he does that in addition to it, above and beyond.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job with it. I mean, I think you have guys out there right now in the field catching jugs, and you didn't name any of those guys just now. So I think it's a combination of that. I think it's, the ability for one guy to maximize himself. Because as much as you want to work really hard, if you don't have that ceiling, you can't reach that ceiling. So that is the blessing, But yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of great players in that receiver room, and Marvin's being one of them.
Remember long ago when you were a player, when you were just running routes in the summer and things like that, catching balls from whoever your quarterback was, just trying to stay tuned. Were you always playing scenarios in your head, or you were just going out there running an action?
Correct. I mean,
explain what that.
Yeah.
Good mind tricks you could play.
Well, I just think every time you're doing a rep, you're putting yourself in a potential live rep. I think that you're always mimicking an actual game movement. You're always replicating a scenario or whatever. Like whether you're, keeping your toes in on the driveway and falling in the grass to catch the ball, or whether you're, on a sideline catching the ball. Who's it against and what's the technique. There's always that ghost that you're going against. And I think the guys are playing the game constantly when on their field. And I think that's really critical. I think just going out there and going through the emotions is one thing, but going with the motions with intent is a whole nother.
Do you see it manifest itself with Marvin, for example, in games where it looks like almost like he's been in that situation before, the way he either made a move or made a catch?
I think all of them try to replicate that scenario and try to put themselves in the situation to replicate it on Saturday.
Darnell Tate's a guy who clearly made an impression in the spring. You've seen that continue since then. What do you think is really, even as a freshman, could be on this team?
I think Darnell had a great spring. I think that I look forward to his growth through the summer. And, I want to see what he's able to continue to do, the consistency he's able to play with through summer and through the fall. I mean, fall is a big part, and I think his ability to challenge and make plays and carve out a role for himself in the fall will be an awesome challenge.
And the other freshmen are coming later this week, is that right? They're later this week?
They're all here.
They're all here, okay.
Everybody has to improve, I know. But the number one concern on your board headed into summer and then preseason camp with the offensive side of this football team is what? I mean, I would think it'd be the offensive line, especially a couple of spots on the offensive line. I mean, I know everybody's got to get better. I'm just wondering, in your mind, where do you got to have somebody step up?
Yeah, I don't think we have, our starting offense outlined yet or defined.
Yeah.
I think the starters on offense, there's a lot of areas of competition currently and still happening. And I think working through spring and into fall, identifying those guys and the guys we can rely on will be critical.
Emeka and Julian both cleared for full activities right now?
I believe so, yes.
I'm sure you've already been asked this, but the addition of Joe Philbin, what does that bring to the staff of the guy
Yeah, I think the addition of Joe has been phenomenal. I think, both from, former head coach, offensive coordinator, O-line play, the wealth of knowledge when it comes to football. I mean, there's so many litany of things that he brings to the building. How approachable he is, how coachable, 2 coaches he's willing to be. I mean, there has been so many positives having Joe on this added to the staff. I can't wait to see it, grow and fester and just, but he's been a great addition.
process of how that came about? Did he reach out to you? Did you reach out to him? Did you have contact?
We had contact, but then I kind of gave him the idea, and he was definitely receptive to it, and we weren't sure if it was going to work out, but between himself and Ohio State and everything, it worked out, and I'm glad it did.
in general, this is a recent thing in college football to have the analysts that are this big a part of it. How have you seen the past guys, how have they influenced or enhanced the offense, what you guys have tried to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can add that kind of expertise to the room in any kind of role, it's a benefit. So as much as we're allowed to, we're going to try to.
Virginia Valley, you mentioned it's time. You mentioned it's time for him to go. Have you seen that sense of urgency from him? To really, kind of
Oh yeah, his desire and urgency has never changed. But just because you want it doesn't mean it's happened yet. So he's going to keep chasing it. He knows the litany of things that we need to hit. But I'm very encouraged, and I think Jane's on a great path.
You were on the Dolphins with the Hard Knocks when Philbin was a coach. Did you watch any of that?
Probably a little at the time, but I don't recall much of it at this point. But I'm sure naturally.
But he came across as such a sort of genuine, real guy in that show. Is that him?
Oh yeah, Joe's a great dude. Loves ball, very approachable, and yeah.
Brandon Ennis has been around here already for weeks, right? Going like
About close to a month, I think.
Is he getting to? How much did that help him? Do you think? Did you get to see him?
Yeah, I think it's helped him a lot. I think really kind of getting doctrined into how we do things and what we do. I think his body's already starting to change a little bit. I think he's mentioned to me he already feels a little stronger, and so anytime you can get on campus and get rolling with how it's going to go, it's going to help you. That first month can be a lot of things happening. To do it a month earlier than you would have happened, quote unquote, is a huge bonus.
You're talking about who? Simmons? Who are you talking about?
Brandon Ennis.
Brandon, yeah.
I didn't hear the question. You personally, do you wake up every morning? Do you even have to have an alarm clock? Especially since you've been named coordinator.
Do I need an alarm clock? Absolutely.
Wake up. Some people just wake up.
I have 3 kids.
Some people don't even go to sleep.
I do not wish myself to ever be that person.
But I mean, what is just sort of like changed about the routine or about the feeling of responsibility that maybe you didn't have this time a year ago?
I would say
Not just coaching
the
guys,
stress level is much higher. I would say the brain does not stop. It used to stop a little easier. Now it does not stop. I have a great passion for this school and this university, and so more responsibility just makes more worry. That's just the reality of it. And if I didn't care so much about it all and the people it involves and Buckeye Nation, I probably wouldn't worry as much. But the reality of it is I do highly care on a very, very high level. So, it just plays a bigger part.
the best thing that's flashed through your mind at a stoplight when you were daydreaming? What's the best thing? I mean, since you became coordinator, you got one of those brilliant
Nothing. That's a weird question.
light bulb ideas.
That's a weird question.
Pop.
No.
Or while you're driving. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you're
I mean,
asking.
I know you're constantly
Yeah, it's all right.
trying to figure.
I'm thinking about
which-
players.
Yeah.
Thinking about players, not plays.
Yeah. And so
What do you mean?
coming out of the spring, who's a player that just like, man, he really caught my eye. This guy really made improvement. We've got to figure out a way to get him involved. Other than
We have plenty of guys we need to try to get involved. Plenty of guys that earn it, plenty of guys that have shown it. So it's just about, trying to get all that done.
yeah, but not one guy just kind of like, I'm not saying he's going to be the starter. One guy that you're just proud of what you saw.
I'm proud of all the freshman receivers that came in, and they've done a good job for the demand at which they get put on them. Now, it's for any young player, but I just deal with the receivers, from a day-to-day basis. But those young old linemen, they did a good job, man. I mean, there was not glaring issues. They did a good job in protection. They took coaching at a high level. So just the young class in general was very encouraging.
Yeah, and one last thing, like you just talked about, about the receiver, the guys that come in here now, this receiver group, what you're built is incredibly impressive. And can you sense the pressure that they feel coming into a group that's already like that? I mean, that's
You have to ask.
meaning
I don't feel it. You have to ask them.
you can sense them knowing that every day the light's on them, so to speak. I mean, improvement themselves,
Yeah, but
proving themselves.
what about it?
You're coming into a ring that's stacked. You got like three pretty damn good guys ahead of you.
It's-
In the middle.
Okay.
How have you seen like Crandall take more Rogers, Crandall Bryce Rogers, Brandon Ennis even? How have you seen them respond to the room they're in? Of what's expected, you know?
But I think they knew it was expected. That's why they came here. I mean, nothing's changed. All those guys were already here.
But there's something about knowing what's expected, but then being here and now you're seeing it.
I mean, you have to ask them. I would say my take would be you're never ready. You're never as ready as you think you are. But that being said, they still did a great job coming in as mid-years to compete and to learn. But their perspective on what they thought and what has happened is something good for them to ask. I don't know that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, you were in that role at one point in your life, right?
I was.
Freshman wide receiver.
I was never a mid-year.
So, okay, you got me on the technicality. Thanks a lot.
Brian, just can't ask you what I want to ask you over here.
No, you can ask me whatever you want.
Just in terms of like recruiting wise,
Yeah.
no names or anything like that, but how have you noticed being in the offensive coordinator role, looking for more than just your room? How have you seen your approach to being on the road maybe change or
No
kind of
approach
adapt?
change. I think it's just, I think there's more receptiveness to different position groups from a connectability. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, yeah, it's just, I think just, speak to somebody, an O-lineman as an offensive coordinator versus a receiver coach, they're just a little more receptive. Not that they mean to be, not be, they just seem a little more receptive.
Is it a little bit maybe more of a double whammy then when you're going to a school and it is for a wide receiver?
No, I think it's just as enjoyable. I'm just as inquisitive. Not a whole lot has changed from that part.
Can a guy change what you look for in a receiver going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's an imperfect science. It's not like I never claimed to be like this hard criteria of how you identify wideouts. I mean, to me, I always feel like anything, whether you're recruiting or whether you're trying to draft guys, it's all a percentage base of success. So my odds of success are this based on this. And, each variable changes your odds of success. The one thing that I feel like increases your odds and has the most consistent return on the odds is their mental makeup and mentally how they're wired. Is it always easy to identify that? It's not. But I feel like that is what you're always trying to look for. It's not a speed. It's not this. It's not this physical traits. Those physical traits usually are check the box, like fast enough, quick enough, whatever, those kind of things. Frame is big enough to add weight, and so it's an imperfect science, if you will. So there's not a hard format on what you're looking for. So that formula, quote unquote, can always change.
The reason I'm asking is because it's wide receiver, but there's three positions in the room. It's X's, slot, and Z.
Sure.
And I know, like, this fall when I ask you where guys are playing, you're going to say everybody's everywhere.
They are.
Then there's guys that you can actually put somewhere on game day when it actually matters.
Yeah.
And you've had a guy at X like Garrett who was littler, but kind of a freak athlete. And you've had like Marvin there, where like Marvin obviously looks like he's an X.
Right.
So when you're evaluating the recruiting process
Yep.
of, okay, this is a good receiver, but where can I play him at?
Yeah.
What are you looking for when you go, okay, this guy can play X for me, this guy can play slot for me, this guy can play Z for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I hate to be stereotypical, but like that kind of happens naturally sometimes. I'm not saying what I'm necessarily looking for each spot, but you you line guys up across the board, right? And as soon as you move the tight end, sometimes the X becomes a Z and the Z becomes the X. So like, what are we really talking about here? At the end of the day, they may kind of fit a certain spot because that's how my brain wired, but you have to be able to play all spots, or with your limit, however limited you are, will limit your ability to get on the field. That's just the truth. So, you know, I know I'm not giving you a great answer to all that, but like, you know, yeah, your prototypical X is like a Marvin size. You put a Mecca over there, he would probably, he would be productive too, being over there. Same with Julian. Like, what's the difference between Julian and Marv? When you line them up and you measure them and height weight them and speed them, and like, not a whole lot different, I don't think. So, you do have a mental picture in your head of what each position plays. I'm going to keep it to myself because it doesn't help me in any way talking about it. But you have to be able to do almost everything, or it's hard to get on the field. It's truth. So, as soon as you get the 12 personnel, your X and Z becomes a slot. So, what are we talking about? You don't reach your successes by what you do, but your limits prevent you from reaching your goals. If that makes sense or not. But like, it's not about what you can do; it's about what you don't do that limits you. So, we try to do it all.
Now that you're the offensive coordinator, I can ask you this question: what are the pros and cons of 4 wide receivers on the field?
Pros would probably be the speed and athlete you have on the field. The cons would be usually the run game, and protection-wise, you're a little susceptible because you can't steal or add the tight end. You're a little more predictable, I think, in 10 personnel and what you can do from a run game perspective. Hard play actions much more difficult. There's a lot of pros and cons. I would say, the versatility of our tight ends and how athletic they are, they provide more of a mismatch and a variability of the complexity of which we can run offensive plays, having them in the game. So I feel like we have a bigger menu of what we can do with a tight end on the field than you do with 4 wideouts. And we are definitely a better team having a tight end on the field than just being with 4 wideouts all the time. We're not saying we can't have packages. I can't say we can have fun with it. But anytime our tight ends are on the field, it's a bonus for the Buckeyes.
I guess, me as a guy who didn't play at Ohio State, didn't play in the NFL, this kind of question about you guys throw out run sets all the time.
We throw at a run, yeah.
Like, why can't the opposite work where you run out of passing, quote unquote passing sets, which is what you would think of the 4 wide receivers?
Well, I think it's just a play in philosophy. It's if you want to live into the 10 personnel world. At the end of the day, you're going to be in 10 personnel. What are you going to do out of it? How often are you going to be in it? All that plays a part. As soon as you sub to a 10 personnel set, what do? You do this or this or this, and then as soon as you get into 11 personnel set, you do this or this. Because you only have so much time to practice. So you can only execute, you can only implement what practice allows and the time it allows. So where you want to put your marbles is who you become. Like I said, I think the complexity of an offense is much larger, in my opinion, having a tight end on the field versus having 4 wideouts on the field.
Has that mindset for you changed now that you're in this position? Because I would assume that you're a wide receiver by trade, so there's probably a point in your life where you're like, I want as many wide receivers on the field as possible.
No, wide receiver play is only good if you can protect for them.
Okay.
If you can't protect for them to be open, everything starts up front. If you can't start up front, nothing else happens. So if you want your receivers to have really good receiver play, well, then you got to make sure you have really good O-line play and really good quarterback play. It doesn't work any other way.
You might have been asked this, but Joe Philbin, what are the best things that he did as a coach to help you as a player when you played for the Miami?
Well, at the NFL level, we don't have a ton of one-on-one time with the head coach. My one-on-one time would be with my position coach. I thought that we were well organized. I felt that job description was very clean. I think the game plan was very clean. I think that having him now in the room is being much more beneficial than how he was as a head coach back then. I mean, the impact Jim Tressel would have had on me now would be much more impactful than probably he did as a head coach at Ohio State. Coach Hazel had the most day-to-day contact, the most impact on me, not Jim Tressel. So I think it's very cool to have Coach Philbin around now, and for me to have this opportunity to learn from him, which I really didn't have back then.
Did you look at that as something where, because you had already worked with him, that chemistry you already had together would make it easier for him to come in?
I did not think of it that way. I think the opportunity to reach out to him and have his contact and be relatively, know of each other. I think he knows me, so when he asked me a question, I could tell him how it was. He believed me. But, I mean, Coach Day got on the phone with him. I'm sure Coach Fitch got on the phone with him. He talked to multiple people, not just me. But, needless to say, working with him before and having him here now it's a pretty cool experience. Yeah.
How much can that open up an offense? Even if you take a guy like Kate out, have Joe.
Yeah, I would say it really provides a lot of certainty of, if a guy does get banged up, you're not reliant on necessarily one guy being available. We have some other guys available, which is good for a team aspect, and again, that plays into the part when we get into 12 personnel and we get down on the goal line, if we want to get into 13, it does provide potential mismatches. It does provide potential information gathering. I mean, all those things are at your fingertips. Us using it properly will be the key.
What did you see? I know Kate didn't play every single rep on the spring. So what did you see from Joe and G when they were in there with the ones in the team?
Yeah, they did a great job, I think, growing. I think there's obviously points in their game they would tell you they need to improve upon. And if they can do it, they want to improve on doing it more consistently. But they showed to be able to do a lot of the job description, And I think that, again, having such depth demands the consistency and demands the play, which elevates the total play of the room. Having one guy be able to do it's one thing. That guy doesn't feel threatened. If you have a guy or two or three, now you're really elevating the whole room and the standards being lifted, new guys coming in, are trying to meet that standard like Jelani. All of that health of that room improved throughout the summer, or throughout the spring, excuse me. Yeah.
Was there anything as a coordinator that you learned in the spring that you couldn't have really learned until you went through it?
No, I guess the first thing that just popped in my mind just to share is that I felt myself, barking out, maybe, talking play calling or whatever through the spring, then also limited my ability to bark at the receivers and just, wearing both the hats. I definitely felt that a little bit, especially during practice. In between practice, I was fine. But during practice, I had to lead them kind of to their own, which was fine because I do have a great room and they do know what they got going on. And so the room is built to, they're good. So, but I would say that's the one thing that I felt through practice.
And you're fortunate to have that kind of crew.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, it's self-sustained essentially,
Yep,
right?
yep, agreed.
Feel that comfortable with it if you weren't bringing back this much experience? If this were a year ago where it's like...
Well, no, I would say, you'd be a little more stressed about it or whatever, but that's not how the room's built. So that's not the case. Cool.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks.